Yeah, okay. So, let's see. I'm going to do some adjusting here. Let's see. I'm going to put this back here. Okay. All right. Yeah. So anyway, I know I said I wasn't going to go into this anymore, but I wanted to touch a little bit more on this. Okay, so I've gone over all this shadow shit, right? Now, so I want to take you back to when I was in Denver and I met Baba and his wife, and they're both like into crystals and tarot, and they're like really super deep into it. And I met him, and then I spent, they did like a free like 3 hour reading, and during this thing, I was telling him this story about my kitten named Shadow, and this whole experience up until that point. Okay, so when I met Baba and his wife, that was like the night, the day before the Todd Minchall event thing just started to unfold. So the day before, or later that night, I think it was actually even later that night. So I met Baba and stuff, and then anyways, whatever the exact timeline, but it was very right around there. So I met them, and then they gave me this free 3 hour reading, and both Baba and his wife are both like heavily into this shit, super knowledgeable on crystals, tarot, all this kind of stuff, all this whole thing. And they did a free 3 hour reading, and during that reading, I told them the story about my kitten and how it has haunted me since it happened. And that's when the wife, I can't remember her name, like she was way tripping, dude, and she was picking up a bunch of reading while I'm telling the story, the shadow story. And like she immediately was like, dude, like she was tripping the fuck, like she was getting really strong readings, and she couldn't contain herself. She was so tripped out, right? And so when she gave me her assessment of the story of the shadow, that's when she told me that based off of everything that she knows in the arts and all this stuff, on all this woo woo shit, her expertise actually was also regression, and tracing bloodlines, and regression was like the main part. That and tarot, and of course crystal, and all this stuff. But she told me that the reading that she got from hearing my story about my kitten Shadow, from when I was a child all up through all these years, was that my father was a grand dragon of like super deep in occult shit, and 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 that she was convinced, dude. She was like totally convinced. And like I said, when I talked about this in the first part of this, looks like 4-part video series, you know, it started to, when she started talking about that, I started having flashes of not only of how that would make sense, but also like my mom, even more so, where my mom even revealed herself to me, where there were some incidences that went outside the pale of what we understand as reality, and stuff, where she was physically fracturing my brain, almost as if they had given me some kind of horse tranquilizer or GBH or something to put me in a state where I was physically immobilized, but I was still awake. And she was standing over me with one of her ex-husbands in real life, not in a dream, and they had fractured and were fracturing my physical brain and like cackling with laughter while they stood over me. And it was like it was like it was like real but a dream state at the same time, where you know what I'm trying to say. So and I've had so many experiences like this just overall throughout all my years in childhood and growing up and everything, to where when this woman who did the reading, her and her husband did this 3-hour reading on me, when she started like tripping out and really going into that, it was like, it was really made a lot of sense, and really kind of, and then that is like, shortly after that reading is when all of this happened, where the beginning of the unfolding of this massive event took place. So anyways, yeah, just another interesting point. I know I got to get off of this. But yeah, it's hard to know what to leave out and what not to,